Gosh, so we moved to Lexington coming up on 2 years.
Has it been 2 years?
Columbia area since 2019. So grew up in North Carolina, came to school in South Carolina.
Whereabouts in North Carolina? I'm learning more and more about
Sure,
our
born in
country.
Fayetteville, and
Okay.
and then grew up in Charlotte.
All right.
So
Last guy I talked to was from outside of Asheboro
yeah,
in Seagrove, I think it's called. A little
Okay.
tiny little nothing place called Seagrove.
okay.
I had to go looking that one up.
I think Asheboro has a good zoo there. I only know that because I have young kids.
And you want to put them in the zoo?
Sometimes. Sometimes, but visiting.
How do your kids like it here?
Love it. We actually have that conversation, so we've moved 3 times. Well, we moved, I guess, twice since we've been at Columbia. So we were down south, down by the VA hospital, Old Woodlands area. And then we moved to Irmo, and then from there, we moved here. So next, I guess, is the Northeast for us.
Yeah, but that's a lot of jumping around. You got to follow a progression here. I don't know. You're kind of in a circle. You might
I
have
know.
background Hopkins or something next.
Yeah, for sure. But I think this is definitely my wife's favorite spot. But the kids love it. Other than the sloped yard.
Yeah. Well, they get used to that.
They love it. The sidewalks, walking, the biking. And Lexington, I'll be honest, we came to Lexington for the parades long before we lived in
Really?
Lexington. So we were veterans at St. Patty's Day Parade, Veterans Day Parade, and then just the concerts and stuff, Snowball Festival at the amphitheater, stuff like
Kids
that.
Day, or I think it's called Kids Day, that the town police puts on.
So we were supporters of Lexington from the very beginning. We loved it.
So what are you doing in the middle of South Carolina anyway?
Okay, so I went to school at Presbyterian College in Clinton, or Clinton. So,
As they might say, or if you're in Louisville, it's not Louisville or Louisville, it's Louisville.
That's right. So my wife went to Furman up in Greenville, and we met one time in college, but we really met working together after school. And so we...
Did she follow you to where you were going to work together, or was that just happenstance?
Yeah, it just kind of happened that way. We were placed in the same
We were both
area.
on a similar path.
That's right. So I direct a nonprofit college ministry called Campus Outreach in the area. So there's 34 staff at 6 universities here in the state in Western North Carolina, and we've been doing it since we graduated. That's where we met. We both were doing that.
Did you start this up, or was this something that you just expanded an existing campus ministry?
Yep, expanded. So it was already going. I mean, that was really what was super formative for me personally in my time in college, was this ministry. I grew up around the faith, but was just not interested at all in it. And college was just super formative. After school, we both, same with my wife, Lindsay, and then we met after school and have been in the state since. So we've lived in Greenville for 4 years. We moved back to Clinton for 4 years, Spartanburg for 2 years, and now coming up on 5 years in Columbia.
So Kevin Thumpson has somewhat of a similar background or story. You know, he grew up, I wouldn't say anti-faithful. Let's say, if I understand things, he didn't reject as much as he just didn't embrace his Christianity until he was in college, in 5 Points, at a bar.
Oh my gosh.
With his frat brothers.
Wow.
God came along and said,
yeah, no kidding.
He's like, what? And so it was a turnaround moment for him, where he just decided at that point he he knew where he wanted to point his life, but he also knew that he would be largely tempted to abandon that path. So he told me in his conversation here, he went and like the next day went to the guidance counselor or went to his advisor and said, I want to change majors. I don't care what I change it to. I just want to change it to something that I won't be able to get a job within. Because I don't want to, he was a business and finance major and knew that he was going to graduate and he'd have all kinds of job opportunities. And that would be too much of a distraction. So it's like, I want a degree in something that I can't get a job in, so I'm kind of forced to continue down this path.
That's hilarious.
So he turned around and majored in psychology.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know why you can't get a job in psychology.
That's what my wife studied.
That's what my wife studied as well. My advice to you is never marry somebody with a psychology degree.
See, no, they should have something going on in the cul-de-sac here.
Yeah.
Between the three of them. That's hilarious.
Yeah. But that's what he did, and that kept him going on it. So with you, did you... obviously you had a change of heart somewhere along the line and said, this is where I want to go. What were you majoring in school?
So I studied religion, actually, because it was a couple weeks before coming up to college in my undergrad is when maybe I had one of those moments and experiences where leading up to that point, I had been around Christianity, Christian school my whole life, but always could make the distinction between Christianity over there and me over here. And really just saw it as kind of boring, to be honest, and saw it as just be a good person, do good things. And to me, that just didn't quite get at, that's the purpose of life. It just didn't quite do it for me. So much so where I had some Christian friends and felt bad for them, honestly, in some ways. I remember having that thought. But was kind of uninterested and was attending this church the summer before college. And it was through that, hearing this preacher's message each summer. And then the things that I was doing were just kind of losing its... You kind of put all your eggs in the basket of whatever, and for each person it's different, and they were just losing their meaning and satisfaction, and I was asking kind of those existential questions of like, what's the purpose of life, and it was through this...
Still asking those questions.
We all are in some ways. Maybe you should never stop asking questions.
Yeah, I will say that I've asked enough questions at this point that my wife is telling me, she's like, please stop.
Well, you're in a good role of hosting a podcast.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting to me is that I haven't really put it together much, but the first episode was Kevin Thumpston, who's pastor, Watershed church planter. The last two episodes, or two of the last three episodes, are with children of Lutheran ministers.
Okay.
They grew up in the church, and they've maintained it. And it's fascinating to me, where people go and what, like your observation. I kind of felt bad for my Christian friends because you feel like they were kind of boxed in, perhaps. Or
that's right.
But then you realize it's not about that. And so you're running campus ministries here now. What are the schools that are in this that you kind of cover? So
here in Columbia, it's University of South Carolina and Benedict College, which a lot of times gets overlooked. That's been wonderful the last couple years to see. Presbyterian College, so you kind of move up I-26. Presbyterian College, Wofford College, Clemson University, and then Western Carolina University, Catamounts.
Of those schools, where do you see the most interesting outcomes, or where the kids seem? I don't want to say kids because they're not really kids; they're young adults. But where you see the most thoughtful interests? You know, everything's not as captured by the culture.
Sure. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a good question. The university landscape is pretty discouraging, and yet, I mean, that might be something to dive into of why that's discouraging. And then, but there's these glimmers of hope and light and encouragement at each one of those schools. You know, I could share stories from each one, but maybe one thing I will just highlight is right now, I mean, Clemson is a wonderful place to do ministry, and God seems to be especially working there right now in a unique way, in that there's just lots of students that are involved, and I would say lots of students that are really maybe at this time catching a vision for something bigger than just themselves. I heard it summarized recently of a great just definition of life, to not consume but to give, you know, is a great definition of manhood or anything, one that's giving more than they're consuming, and then just trying to lift up these students' eyes to something bigger than just getting a good job and making money and going on a vacation and having a family, and those are wonderful things, but like the purpose of life being bigger than that. And it's one of the reasons I love this demographic, the 18 to 22, is because they have so much energy, so I feel energized by them. I also feel old. Maybe older than I am because of them.
Because you're going to continue aging, and they're
That's
always
right.
going to stay
They're
the same
always
age.
staying the same. They have so much energy, and they're not tied down to, they haven't made a lot of decisions yet that are holding them down in one place, and so they're easily excitable, they have energy, they have vision, and you're kind of tapping into that and calling them up to a life bigger than just themselves. And it's really fun because...
Is it fun because you can see them actually thinking, and this is maybe the first time in their life that they've actually had to think?
Sure, and they're open to ideas, as closed off as it is in some ways.
Well, I was going to say, you could talk again about the discouragement of the university landscape.
That's right.
That's the problem, is that most kids that I've seen, at least coming up through high school and whatnot, they don't seem to think. They're not taught to think.
Yeah.
In fact, they're taught very much to just follow some instruction. Well, and there's no independent thought going on. And that's always concerned me. Well, ever since I noticed it after I started thinking.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. I don't know if you're familiar with the book. I'll just reference Jonathan Haidt's Coddling of the American Mind.
If it's around here somewhere.
There you go.
I have it. I read it.
And I read it this past year. And
He's got a new one out.
Okay.
I forget what it is, but it's all about social media and the phone, how it's basically killing us all.
Yeah, and you see it on the college campus, the inability to sustain a conversation,
right.
Healthy interpersonal relationships.
And honestly, that's part of why I'm doing this, is so that I can actually practice those skills and get good at it. I always used to think of myself as an introvert until somebody proved to me that I wasn't. And
okay.
Well, darn, I kind of thought I was an introvert. I was
funny.
happy with that. And they're like, no, you're a people person. I'm like, really? Yeah, you're a people person. I'm like, damn.
So do you see it now more?
I do, yeah. So what I've told a lot of people now is that there's a lot of people that think of themselves as introverts, and I have determined that in my way of thinking, they're not introverted so much as they're unskilled extroverts.
Wow.
And I had a friend
That's
years
well
and
said.
years ago that made a comment about friendship and various things. He says it's actually something you have to practice. It's a skill for a lot of people. Some people are just naturally gregarious. They're
Right.
fun. They're everything that they want to be, and they're the people that we're all jealous of.
Right.
Because everything seems to come so easy to them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they've got a talent for this, but it's not like it's a skill that can't be learned and it can't be perfected. And I think for a lot of people, since you're just sitting here on a phone, it's such a it's become such a crutch, and you no longer have any of the interpersonal communications.
That's right. It's eliminating a lot of the social development.
Right.
Yeah. We see that as a huge, I'm super passionate about it, and that's a huge benefit that we're trying to give the universities and the students is the type of social life and engagement. What we try to do in our, obviously want to introduce people to Jesus, and we want to do it in community. I think inviting people and allowing people to experience the social dynamics in the community is just essential of them growing and adulting.
How many times have you seen somebody that just, you see this growth over the course of a few years where they kind of come out of their shell and just, you're like, wow, that was quite the awakening.
All the time. It's amazing. That's one of my favorite things about what I do is, maybe I'm a tad selfish, but I have not found another context where you see this much life change happen in such a short amount of time and the college campus. You can see a student come in as a freshman and leave after graduating, and they're a different person. They're a different person in their values. They're a different person in their relationship with God. They're a different person in their priorities and how they want to spend their time. They've grown in all these areas that we're talking about. I mean, the social media and the phone and some of that stuff is extremely detrimental to their development. And so you're seeing them grow in those areas, and it's really powerful. And they're making decisions after they graduate to be a different kind of parent, to be a different kind of husband or wife, to be a different kind of churchgoer, to not just attending and being passive, a different type of leader, a different type of neighbor, a different type of worker. It's very, very rewarding.
How are your neighbors?
You know, you can't pick your neighbors, is what I would say. It's been a pleasant surprise. Surprise.
It's I worry sometimes, as people come and go, like, oh, it was great before, there's no way it's going to be as good as it was. It's going to be worse or whatever it is. And I think this is the people part of me.
Yeah.
That has demonstrated, hey, it's not them.
Clearly, I see the extroversion. You're out in the cul-de-sac, engaging with people, talking, having conversations. For sure. I definitely see it. That is not introvert. Introvert is much more, I think maybe has to do that more intentionally, maybe as a more learned behavior. It seems
so one of the things that I have found that I struggle with is being alone. As much as I would have called myself an introvert, if I'm alone, all I want is, I need to get out and do something or talk to somebody or whatever. I actually have to force myself to just say, no, sit here.
Yeah.
And then I can have that more detailed conversation. That's when I consider and go, oh, wait a minute, that's the voice I've been trying to ignore for 50 some odd years. And it's like, well, my wife is off to the beach right now, so I get several days by myself. And I'm like, yeah, but I have to work, and now I have to interact with other people. And I'm like, can I just get some focus time? But it's hard. It's a skill that, like any other skill, it's got to be cultivated.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm much more comfortable maybe alone or in my own thoughts. But even that takes discipline to get. I feel like in our distracted culture, just easily entertained. You're easily kind of entertained and distracted. When I have a boring moment, I want to immediately get out my phone and ESPN.com or check my email for the 20th time today. It's like I'm not that important.
The wake up for me has been a couple of times I would see something on TV or whatever I was watching and I go, this is what you want to be entertained by?
Yeah.
I used to watch Breaking Bad, which I thought was a pretty good show. And I forget which season it was, third or fourth season or whatever, and there was a twist in the plot or whatever it was, a storyline, and I just went, I don't want to be entertained by that. I want that to be, I mean, I don't want to ignore that it exists, but I want that not to be entertainment to me. I want that to be shocking, disturbing, emotional, or whatever it is, not just something that I go, oh, I don't care. So there's a lot of things that subsequent to that, various things that I'll watch and I just go, that's just not entertaining. And it's not to say that I condemn, whatever's there. I've become conscious of this is attractive to me. That's not so attractive. And it's just about being discerning about your own place. Talent. Oh my gosh. I can sit and watch talent all day long. It is the most fascinating thing to watch another human being expressing some talent.
Yeah.
Even if it's a talent that I don't want. I recognize where there is talent, and it is so engaging to me. The opposite of that is, boring to me. If it's, you're just following a script or there's no talent or whatever. I mean, even for some things, you might not be doing something well, but some other part of that is really, really, really good. You'll see somebody that's got a good stage presence, but, maybe their act is pretty bad. But they're up there doing it.
Yeah.
And they've got a good presence, and that can't be taught. But it's fascinating to me. So I don't like to waste my time now because like I'm getting older, and I don't want to waste it on boring stuff. So anyway, enough about me.
Well said.
So you got 6 schools in your 6 in your territory. When do you add more? Because there's certainly, you got Charleston area you could cover and stay on 26. You got more schools in the upstate.
Yep.
You got more schools here in Columbia. Why just those 6?
Yep. There's obviously a history of how we got to those 6, but right now more of our goal, instead of adding to our current footprint, is more of sending teams to start new locations elsewhere. So like even this past year, we sent a couple staff and a group of students to Lima, Peru to start a new campus outreach work. And our ministry is unique in that it's partnered with the church. And so there's churches around the world that want to minister to college students, and they request from us a campus outreach to come help them do that. And so we come up under the authority and partnership of the local church there around the world and seek to help them do ministry with our staff and students. So we started at Lima, Peru, and we hope to do that in different places. I'm going out to San Diego this summer, and we'll be doing some training and some just helping and partnership with a campus outreach that we sent out there a few years ago. And so maybe more than building out currently, there's a goal to really send. And there are other CO regions, so we call it around us, if you will. So it's not just us in the country, there's a lot of other ones.
Segue to something different.
Yeah.
Your hobbies. What do you do with your, I won't say idle time, because I've known you a little while, and you don't appear to be an idle man.
Not much discretionary time. So I have an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, 2 girls, and as you know, and I love spending time with them. So I try to spend as much time as possible. Like I'm going to go pick them up this afternoon from school, and we will be playing tennis. I guess technically they're tennis coach, and we play card games and Uno, and not with them, yard work currently. It's somewhat of a hobby, I guess. More like landscaping.
It's taken on more than a hobby status.
A little bit more than a hobby, as you are aware. But that has been like a goal, and I am not short on focus, and so some of that can be detrimental because I get really laser focused on something, and it's just in the back of my head until I complete it. And right now the yard is one of those. It just drives me nuts to have something incomplete. So
your yard's never going to be complete.
Yeah, I haven't learned that yet. So I spend,
partly because it's going to change all the time. You're going to get something right. You're going to, okay, all right, I'm done with that. Then you'll have a freeze.
Yeah, you're right.
And you'll be right back to,
sure,
got to do something different with this now.
Sure. I've been working to flatten some areas. Exercise, that's a hobby for sure. I definitely spend some discretionary time exercising, whether that's running or weightlifting, some type of resistance workout. Yeah, and then I'm currently in seminary taking classes, and so that takes up my nights, a lot of nights. So those are a few things, but I'm also a huge learner. So I'm more introverted than you. I'm a thinker, and I like to learn, and so I love to read. I'm actually into like medical podcasts and health right now. So I'm learning that as I run, which has kind of gotten me into it a little bit. So those are a few things.
What are you learning in the health space?
The health space.
There's lots to learn, and it's always changing.
Yeah,
oatmeal's good for you. Oatmeal's not good for you.
Yeah.
Caffeine's good for you. Caffeine's not good for you.
Not so much nutrition, maybe. That one feels. I'm totally with you. It kind of feels like whoever you ask, you're going to get something different. Probably more like the role of strength training, and I don't think anybody gets to their last few decades of life and says, man, I wish I was weaker. There's a medical doctor who wrote a book called Outlive. Are you familiar with it?
Peter Attia.
There you go. So
we have the book. I haven't read it yet. Dennis has read it, but
you've read all the books I've mentioned so far.
You've only mentioned 2.
That's true. I'll try to mention some more. I'll credit him with this word picture that's been really helpful for me. It's kind of like a savings account. Your body is like a savings account. Obviously, no financial advisor would say you should wait till you're in your 50s and 60s and 70s to start saving for retirement, right? The sooner you start saving, the better.
You're making me feel so bad. I think that's precisely what I've done on at least 2 or 3 counts.
I don't think anybody says they've done it perfectly. Maybe so. But the earlier the better, right? And so he correlates that to your body, and the more you can start saving strength, storing up strength, I think I heard the stat, you're losing 10% of muscle mass
per decade or something like
per
that.
decade.
After the
age of 40
or 50.
That's right. And so...
But then you'll also find all the people talking about how you can still build muscle after the age of 50, after 60. Here's how you can build... Okay. Lose 10%, gain 1%, I think is kind of how that tends to work out.
Sure. Nonetheless...
Or at least let's maintain it.
Yeah, it's significant. Your earlier decades are significant for strength. I think I grew up playing baseball. I played baseball my whole life. And I think when I got done playing, I just saw it as an accessory of something that you weight trained or you did any kind of cardiovascular exercise, if that was something you enjoyed. But maybe I put a little bit more emphasis on nutrition, but now maybe I've kind of swung the pendulum a little bit and seeing the value through what I've listened to and read on cardiovascular and strength training, that storing up of strength. Again, not to look good in your bathing suit at the beach or something.
Nothing to do with it.
Nothing to do with that, but more to do with I think I've developed this vision over the last couple of years of not wanting my 60s, 70s, 80s, if that's how long God gives me, not wanting them to be just in a chair.
Right.
sitting in front of the TV, as we've even alluded to, or my phone on social media, but I want to be doing something productive. I want to be able to go on a mission trip and meet with people and be active and be able to carry my groceries, you know.
Right. There's the inevitable events that will come along that will play out however they're going to play out.
As much as in my control.
You survive those events, awesome. You'll have various limitations. But, my opinion, I think Peter Attia agrees with this, you can diminish the impact of those events by being a little better to start with.
Sure.
I mean, if you're carrying an extra 50 or 60 pounds around, and then you have a knee problem, well, you're probably going to have a knee problem that's a lot worse than you would have had
It's good.
from the same car accident, let's say, if you weren't carrying an extra 50 or 60 pounds around. So, I mean, that's generally how I look at it. And I'm like, it's not so much that I really care that much what I look like. I care that I can still bend over. I can still squat down. I can still do the things that I want to be able to do. And part of this comes from a life philosophy of, first, you need to carry your own burden. First, you must learn to carry your own burden. Before you can help somebody else, you got to be able to carry your own burden to the point where you have excess capacity. Like, my burden is light. I don't have to carry much.
That's good.
Now I can help someone else when they need it. Not that I want to do this when they don't need it and just, hey, let me just carry this for you. No, you can carry your own stuff. I can carry my own stuff. But when you have a moment when you can't, I need to have some extra capacity. So to me, that service to others is not just what can I do for you at the expense of me.
Yeah.
I can only serve others once I am served perfectly. Once I'm served enough that I can do what I need to do, and now I've got extra capacity, then I can be of service to others. But if I can't carry my own load, what am I going to do? How am I going to help someone else?
Yeah, for sure.
So you become a Zone 2 expert, I assume.
You know, I have always, it's been way easier for me to run quickly for a shorter amount of time than to feel that it's any kind of value to run at a slower pace for a longer period of time.
But you've had your head changed on that now.
But I have. So I'm starting to learn, and that's not just, I think it's pretty much across the board. You're going to find any kind of reading or learning that's of value.
Yeah, and I think it holds to everything. It's not just, it's not just a cardio space. Like, oh, you want to be in Zone 2 for a lot of this extended period of time. You want to be in that pretty much in everything. You want to practice that resistance. That's resistance training, but it's also, going into chaos. It's also, the world is full of all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And if you aren't practiced at facing chaos, well then, how are you going to deal with it when it happens? And that again is, how do I serve others? I'm prepared to be able to venture into uncomfortable places.
Yeah.
And how do you get prepared to venture into uncomfortable places? There's a Zone 2 in there.
Yeah.
Where you just kind of, okay, I got one foot in safety, but I'm over here pushing the limits a little bit.
Sure.
So that safe zone, we'll call it, just gets bigger and bigger. And then, if need be, you can bring somebody into your safe zone and help them out.
Yeah. So
this is one of the things where I look at this as service to others. I'm no good if I can't.
Very much connected.
This is also the psychology issue. I can't be a good husband if I'm in a bad emotional place.
Totally.
And if I just ignore all of that and just say, well, I just want to serve you, although I have a special wife, I can start an argument with my wife just by going, oh, honey, I just want to serve you.
That's funny, something like that.
She hates it. Absolutely hates having somebody that she thinks is just trying to serve her.
Okay.
When she gets to the point where she needs that, I'm sure she'll accept it.
Yeah.
But she's like, no.
Yeah. Jesus said that love your neighbor as yourself. Not just love your neighbor, but there's a connection, right?
Right, and that flips around both ways, right? It's, if those two things are equal, if loving your neighbor and loving yourself are equal, then you should be able to flip them around the other way and say, love yourself as your neighbor.
Yeah, that's good. And then Paul says that in Ephesians, when talking about marriage, he says, he who loves his wife loves himself, loves his own body, that type of thing.
Right.
It's the same type of not neglecting ourselves to the detriment, not serving others to the detriment of ourselves kind of idea. Same thing.
So what else brings you the excitement in life, the exploration, the places to go, the foods to eat, the people to see, the concerts to go to or whatever? What's on your horizon?
In the near future?
Near future, far future, bucket list?
Okay. Let's see, maybe starting small and maybe working big. I talked about my passion for college students. I love hearing people's stories. I love getting to know people. I'm actually, over this next year, going to actually have more time in my schedule to do more student ministry. So I would say one thing that gets me really excited moving forward is, the stories. I could tell you story after story I just read the Bible with a guy a few weeks ago, a student, and he had never been in a church building before, and he'd never opened the Bible before.
What prompted him to do this with you?
Conversations, curiosity.
But there had to be a spark in there of some kind that he was interested. He wasn't court-ordered.
And I don't know. Right. And I don't know. It was through just meeting him and getting to know him getting to know me, and me offering through me sharing what I do, would he be interested? And he said, absolutely, that'd be great. So, that kind of stuff is so invigorating for me. God completely changed my life and showed me, as we alluded to earlier, the misconceptions I had about Christianity and life. And it just, it gets me up in the morning, getting to know people. So I love getting to know people. I love hearing their stories as an introvert, in an introverted way.
Something tells me you're not an introvert either.
Really? Okay, maybe I'm just what did you call it?
Unskilled extrovert.
Maybe an unskilled extrovert. I will say I'm thankful for my job because it has forced me to develop and get feedback in those areas and forced me into those settings where I'm having to be expanded, and stretched maybe in those areas. I love traveling, so I'm very excited to get to go to San Diego this summer. Potentially a trip I got invited on a trip this upcoming fall to Europe, potentially to help speak at a conference for a church there. Stuff like that I get very excited about. I love traveling. I love learning. Some of it's the learning, I think, for me, but I love other cultures. I love other languages and other food. So if you got your ethnic spot here in Lexington, I'd love to hear it.
The most ethnic spot I have in Lexington is Italian.
Okay. You got a good Italian spot?
Yeah, Clara and raised.
Okay.
I always tout that one.
Okay.
There's backstories on that, but I know the guys that run it.
Okay.
And apparently they used to be my next door neighbors 30 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
And I didn't know it.
Oh my gosh.
I can't tell you that story because one of the things that's therapeutic about doing this kind of a podcast, there's nothing harder than listening to your own voice, except for watching yourself on video.
Yeah. I know.
That is so hard. And as I was doing one, editing one of the recent podcasts, I noticed, Alan, you just told that story in the last one.
That's awesome.
Like, okay, got to keep the stories to a minimum. It's not my stories we're talking about; it's your stories. But
That's fair.
Get out to Clara and Ray's if you're looking for good Italian in town.
Okay.
That said, I'm a big fan of Barrio. They recently opened up. Their tacos actually are pretty good.
We've been there once.
Their tequila selection, if you know what you're looking for, is really, really good.
Okay.
Unfortunately for me, I have an alcohol problem. Not a consumption problem, but a storage problem. And I buy too much of it.
You do have your fair share.
I have more than my fair share. That by itself would be more than my fair share.
Yep, I'd say so.
But, this is this is the people thing, because the stories that come out, just the emotions that come out, just being able to sit and it's like wine, food. It triggers emotions. It triggers memories in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
Like, I remember this time when my friends and I, we were off to here, we went to there, or whatever it was, and it brings back stories about things. And the next thing you know, you're like, well, wait a minute, you were such and such a place, or I was over here. It brings a lot of stories in. But Barrio, their tequila selection, has taught me about some really good tequilas out there. So I've had to expand my game into the Mexican space.
Okay.
And learn a lot about what is tequila, what is mezcal, what is now an agave spirit, or there's another term for a mixtos, a tequila mixtos, which is not strictly agave sourced, but other grains that might be used to provide the sugar for the fermentation process. Finding out just how long this has been going on. There's a bottle of chartreuse over here. Chartreuse comes from a monastery in France. And the monks at this monastery got this recipe like in 1502 or something like that. Some wealthy benefactor gave them this recipe for this liquor, which is, they go out and gather all the flowers and the things from the fields around there. It's like 130 or some odd herbs and things that are in this liqueur that they make. It's a heavily guarded secret, and they produce this and sell it. And all of the money they get from that funds their monastic activities.
Wow.
And there's a lot of realization just in how much alcohol, in one manner or another, has been part of human existence and part of human society for so long that it's an interesting place to explore. But it does make me spend money where I probably shouldn't.
Yeah. Outside of my realm of expertise, for sure.
I have certainly been a whiskey evangelist. Maybe that'll be. I'll have to get a new business card. Alan Partis, whiskey evangelist.
Could be your new podcast name.
Second podcast.
That's true.
Maybe that'll be the focus of Al's Down Under, because apparently it already is in a lot of ways. So anyway, Daniel, it's been interesting. We're going to do a chapter 2 with you.
Okay.
Because twice you have said, I could tell you stories. That's the whole objective.
All right, round 2. I love it.
And maybe I won't have any of the technical difficulties I always seem to have anyway.
Okay.
But so if people want to find out about campus outreach, campus ministry, is this something you want to get interest from other people in the community? Is this something you're just looking for? Are you looking for anything with it?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, our ministry definitely doesn't happen in a vacuum. So I think people to be aware of, I mean, like you said at the beginning, where we said it can, I guess, take on a pretty discouraging connotation, the university campuses, landscape. And so I think just people to be aware of the good things happening is really one of our goals. And there's some different partnership things we do, like at our church and churches around town that maybe people are interested in hearing about. Definitely financial donations to our ministry are significant. We can't do this without that. But just Campus Outreach Columbia, you can Google it and see our website, and you'll see contact information on there if someone
When are
wants
you
to.
going to start writing a book?
Writing a book.
Is that one of your bucket list items?
You know what? I could be convinced that could make it for sure. So I am not short on thoughts. It would just be, do I have thoughts that are valuable enough to make it to a book? So to be determined.
The interesting thing about books, do people read them anymore?
That's a good question.
Or, the idea of, well, this has been written about before.
Right.
But so what? Because, how many books have been written that nobody pays any attention to anymore?
Right.
Somebody writes about the same thing, and they think it's all new because they haven't gone and read the old book.
Yeah, sure.
So it's still a way to, kind of get this in here,
People are
get
still
information
reading.
out there. I don't know if the kids today, are your kids going to grow up reading books?
Hopefully. People are definitely reading less, but I think they're still reading. And
I read a lot, but I know I'm unusual.
Well, I look forward to talking more about our reading then. I didn't know that. That's good.
I'll give you a couple books. We can have a book club.
Okay.
That'll be another podcast.
A book
The
club.
Owls Down Under Book Club.
I like that. I'll be a part of your book club for sure.
Cool.
That'd be good.
All right. Daniel, good to
Alan,
see you, man.
Thanks so much.
You have a good one.
Appreciate it.